We're here with Coach PJ Gibbs, head coach of East Lee County High School. Coach, this 2020, and as we're now in 2021, we're almost in like year two of COVID-19 now. It's obviously altered so many things. I want to ask you, what effect has this had on coaches, players, recruiting, and even for you specifically transitioning into a head coaching job during all this? What effects what kind of effects has there been, and also what are you most excited for coming out of this, looking forward after all this kind of wears down and we can kind of get back to a normal or this new normal? What are you most looking forward to throughout all this?
Well, I think the effects it has, it's made you adapt as a coach. With obviously the dead period now being extended through May 31st and probably going to extend it again. I mean, that just seems to do what the NCAA is doing. I don't know why they're doing it, but because you're having Division II and Division III and NAI schools can visit, but now that, it just makes no sense to me, but that's for people that make more money than me to make those kind of decisions. But I think it showed us how to use technology in a positive way. I think that you really see who the workers are in the recruiting aspect of coaching. I think it forced everybody to up their game, especially at the high school level, because now everybody's so active on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram, promoting their kids. And, there was one thing that we did, which I thought was pretty neat, is that, I had a wide receiver that signed with Western Michigan, and I had 4 defensive backs. One's going to Concordia, the other one's going to Bluefield State. 2 of them are going to be picking their schools soon, but colleges couldn't see them. So I took them out and we did a combine workout, and it was videoing them and recorded their interviews. We did their heights, their weights, their hand measurements, their arm length, the whole, like the NFL combine. And I'm getting their videos together, and Malik Diadon, who's the wideout, he's going to Western Michigan. He's like, "Coach, just make an iMovie." I'm like, "What's an iMovie?" He's like, "Download the app and you put it together." And so I'm like, "Oh, download the app, boom, boom, boom." I put like logos in there. Like I said, I'm a Nintendo guy. Like, this stuff's like kind of new to me. And then I did iMovies for each one of the kids, and I put them all out on Twitter. I tagged the coaches that wanted to see them. I texted the coaches that wanted to see them. And it was great. So I think that's the positive thing. I feel really bad for the seniors this year, to be honest with you. With the extra year the NCAA is giving kids, and the lack of guidance on their part, I think really hurt this class. And we're fortunate where we'll have 15 kids out of 17 seniors signed to go play somewhere this year, which is a testament to the dedication of our coaching staff at Palmetto. And I'm hoping to take that with me to East Lee. And I'm excited to hit the ground running. My mantra, and you can have, if any kid that has played for me could sit next to me, I'd say, "What's one thing you hear me say about 30 times a day?" And they say, "Coach, you say you don't wake up to be average." And I say that all the time, and I'm like, it's easy to roll out of bed and just be average, but I take every day as a challenge. Like, there's somebody out there that's trying to outwork me, and I'm not going to let them outwork me. And whether that's football, whether that's teaching, whether that's recruiting, whether that's whatever, I will not be outworked. And that's what I'm excited about heading into this new job.
If that's the one thing that kids remember you of, I think that's a pretty good line to remember you on. And I think about some of the beyond senior year, even some of these juniors, sophomores. Where do you see that effect happening? Beyond this year with the extended 5th year or 6th year for some of these kids in college. How do you see this affecting even some of the underclassmen or even in college and in high school?
Well, I think the 22s will feel it. The kids are going to be seniors this year. I think they'll feel the squeeze a little bit. 23s and 24s, I think they'll be okay, because then I think the rosters will kind of have dissipated back to normalcy a little bit. I mean, at the college level, you're talking about, enhanced competition now, because you got that kid with the extra year at a position, and you got that 4 or 5-star kid that's coming in that's looking to take your job. I mean, from a competitive aspect, I think that's a positive thing, but I think negatively what it did is you got colleges that are just waiting on the portal. Mm-hmm. They're waiting on a portal, and it's like, well, here you have a kid that's a senior in high school that you'll have for 4 to 5 years, and you're waiting on a portal kid. And to me, it's like free agency.
Right.
That's basically what it's come to. And I mean, again, everybody does what they need to do, what's best for their situation. But I feel extremely bad for the 21 kids that, but again, we tell our kids all the time, it's life, man. It's adversity. What are you going to do to make yourself better? If you got to do prep year, go do a prep year. We'll help you get there. If you want to go D3, go D3. If you want to go to a trade school and learn how to be an electrician, go do it. Just, take the lessons you've learned in football and move them into your life and become a better person for that.
That's fantastic. And correct me if I'm wrong, Coach, as well as being the head coach of East Lee, you are also the recruiting coordinator, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I'm curious as to your role and kind of your daily responsibilities being recruiting coordinator, and what key pieces of advice do you have for juniors trying to get recruited during this COVID period? And also a second part to it is, how important do you see a role like the recruiting coordinator in high school programs? Because I see, at least out here in Colorado, I see a lot of schools lack in that area. I personally think of it as an extremely important position. I want to see what you think on that.
Well, I think the first part of your question for the younger kids is, take care of your grades. The first question we get asked is test score and GPA. And right off the bat there, they have to understand that, they could be the best high school football player in the country. If they don't have the grades, I mean, it's tough, so take care of your grades, make sure you're taking a test, understand what your core requirements are, and get your clearinghouse stuff done, get your FAFSA stuff done. That's problems we run into every year is we have kids that don't do, like, the wide receiver, when we do our recruiting meeting in the spring, guys that are seniors, make sure you pay for the clearinghouse. Well, the day before early signing day, when Western called to offer them, we're going through all this stuff. I get a call from the wide receiver coach that he hasn't done the clearinghouse yet. And I called him up, I'm like, dude, what are we doing? I told you that back in March. So yeah, I would say most of, take care of the stuff that you need to take care of. Grades always most important, but the little stuff, that way your senior year, you can just go on a virtual visit if we're still doing this, or, get on a Zoom or whatever but that way you're not worried about that stuff. And I think as far as the importance, I think it's extremely important. I mean, I've done it for a long time, so I'm going to take that responsibility on as a head coach. If there's a coach out there that doesn't want to take that responsibility on, delegate it, but tell the guy what his expectations are, what his role is, what he needs to do. Tell him he needs to go over core GPA, sliding scale, test scores, the difference between NAIA and NCAA. What's a JUCO? JUCO with a meal plan and housing, JUCO without a meal plan and housing. The ultimate goal, and the thing is to get the parents to understand that the ultimate goal is zero student debt. Like, don't worry about posting an offer because your son is that, like, listen, if you got the financial means to send your son to a school as a preferred walk-on, the colleges will take you because the football program's not going to cost them nothing. You're going to pay full tuition, right? But understand that we're trying to get you the best using your kid is using football as a vessel for their education. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to get them to the best possible spot to help you out financially, and parents, there's some that get it, and there's some that you have to grab the balloon and bring them back down to earth. And that's one thing for me. I'm a Jersey guy. I'm honest. Mm-hmm. I am honest, 100% honest. I will tell you like it is. And like I tell our parents at the beginning, when I was at Palmetto, there's six other public high schools and 3 other private schools in this county. If you don't like the way we do things, see ya. We don't have time. Mm-hmm. We don't have time to deal with it. If you want to play football, we will help you. If you don't want to reciprocate the effort, we're not going to help you. Bottom line.
I think that's so important to set that standard up front. If you're not up front and clear about your expectations in that role, I think that's where coaches can run into problems with parents, and parents start kind of, taking over in a sense, and you run into those problems.
I mean, I think the more transparent you are and upfront and honest, that you leave that gray area out, because they know how you operate. They know that if you're going to ask me a question, I'm going to tell you the truth. Do you think no? Do you think no? These are where he should be looking. I've been doing this, and again, we tell our parents too, I'm not going to lie to a coach to get your son an offer to tarnish our reputation and to burn a bridge for another kid 2 or 3 years down the road. not happening. No shot.
What, coach, what would be your advice for a coach that for the sort of, there's that term, the helicopter parent, but in terms of recruiting, um, there's certain things where, you have the parent in terms of playing, and then there's recruiting's a whole nother ball game. What's your advice to a coach, dealing with those two sides of things, and how do you approach, making sure that you guide that kid, that athlete in the right direction?
Well, I mean, I think the FBS kid just needs you to help steer the car. I mean, because those guys are getting looked at since they were freshmen in high school, and they're going to go somewhere. We had 2 sign early this year that I just needed to kind of say, okay, hey, this is your lane. This is what you want to do, blah, 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 blah. In terms of the parents, I mean, from a recruiting perspective, I will answer any question you want me to answer. You may not like what you hear, but I'm going to tell you based on the coaches that I've talked to. We never discuss playing time, so that's never an issue. And then we have to have our parents watch out for these guys that want to have them pay them money to tell them how good their kid is. I think that's a huge problem in our profession today is you got these guys that claim to be these gurus and they're just stealing money from people. I mean, listen, if you have a son, you want to cut me $1,000 check, I'll tell him how good he is. Let's be real here. Like you're getting enough coaching during the season from your high school coach. Like if you want to go with like a speed and agility trainer, I mean, it is what it is. But like these other guys that are these technical whatever, like, come on, man. Let's be serious here. Like, are you really in it to help the kids? That's what I tell the parents. Are they in it to help you or themselves? That's if you can't answer that question, then you've already answered it for me.
That's a great point. That's exactly what I preach to. At least I tried to. Coach Gibbs, I want to switch gears a little bit here, and something we haven't brought up. Your previous role was defensive coordinator at Palmetto Ridge. You're a defensive guy. I'm a defense wins championships guy too. I defense all the way. You're an author of a book called The Right Defense for Your Program. I think we all have thoughts where we type stuff on our computer and think we can write a book, but writing a book obviously is quite the task and quite the accomplishment. Tell us a little bit about that book and what inspired you to write the book.
Actually we did two books.
Okay.
Two books. Yeah. It was the volume 2 part of The Right Defense for Your Program. But really, to be honest with you, it was my OCD and my ADD that kind of got me going. Before we went fully virtual down here, my wife was working from home. She works in insurance. So I had the kids during the day, and it was like a practice schedule. My kids had we did this. But by 2:00 they were done. So I'm sitting here and I'm like, okay, well, I can go down to the gym, come back. What am I going to do? Like, what am I doing here? And there's so much film you can watch and workouts you can send your kids and whatever. So I said to my wife last night, the other night, during the pandemic, I was like, I'll write a book. I'm going to try to write a book. She's like, yeah. She's like, go ahead and do it. So I sat down the first night and I wrote 25 pages, and I'm like, I'm going to do it. I reached out to a couple buddies of mine through USA Football that had done it, and they guided me into the process of what I should do. And I had a AP English teacher at the high school. He formatted it and proofread it for me. And I did the first cover. I had a buddy do the second cover, but I went through Amazon Direct Publishing, and the first book was the #1 seller for the first 6 weeks, I think, and then the second one for the first 3. But it was really the first book was really like my journey as a coach, growing up in a small town in New Jersey, and kind of where I broke my bones as a coach and what I've learned and things that I did with USA Football a little bit, practice planning organization. It really geared towards like a coach starting out and a younger youth coach, where the second book was more intense schematics. And the one chapter I really like was myself, Eric Kaspowitz from Pine Richland High School, and Adam Harvey from Hutto. We just basically, all three of us as coordinators, say, okay, this is how we get ready for a game from Saturday through Friday. And we went through our whole deal. And then I had chapter 5, I had myself, Jason Mons, John Weaver, John Torrey, and my brother-in-law, Justin Kramer. We talked about building a culture from different perspectives of either a defense or a college or a high school team or whatever. That was really cool too as well. So really it was just, it goes back to that, waking up and not being average thing. Like how can I be great today? And being able to look at the man in the glass and say, you did okay today.
That's amazing, being a number one seller for that much amount of time. That must have been, you must have patted yourself on the back a little bit there. What were your expectations, I guess, when putting this book together, and how did this exceed your expectations?
It definitely exceeded my expectations. I didn't think it would get as much. But you know what, too? I think a lot of the people being home played a part in that. I don't consider myself a connoisseur of writing by any means. I just like to talk football and write and put some stuff down about it. But it was pretty neat to get guys to reach out and, hey, coach, when we meet up, I want you to sign my book. Hey, coach, when clinics get back going, I want to talk to you about the book. And it was just, for me, it was, kind of paying homage to, my high school head coach and my grandfather and my father and guys that have, shown me the right way to do things. And, I had, Coach Don Brown did the forward for both of my books, and Coach Brown's been a great friend of mine. And Aaron Ingram, the senior manager at USA Football, he's given me so much opportunity. So it was kind of like just to kind of thank those guys in an aspect of, hey, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for your guidance.
Well, where I just spaced myself, but I'm curious as to how much research or how much time did it take to get all this content put together for the book?
Well, the first one I got done in about a month.
No kidding.
Wow.
And
the second one was a little bit longer. I think the first one I released in April. The second one went out in June.
Okay.
So the second one was more of a research, where the first one was more of just me putting down my thoughts on paper.
What, any other workings happening right now? Any other books coming up, or you taking a break?
There may be one at the end of the season coming up. I'm not sure. I've been asked to maybe do something, so I gotta see if I have the time to do it. But possibly. There's always a possibility.
That's awesome, Coach. Writing a book, I can't imagine. I mean, especially with how busy you already are as with all your other endeavors going on, and then here you are writing a book. So that's fantastic. Here on Third and 30, we focus a lot on adversity and grind, grit, and kind of going through that process. And we have an acronym, and it's #drive, and it's determination, rigor, inspiration, victory, and excellence. And
Okay.
It's kind of our process of how we can drive forward and move forward in our lives. And that's kind of our mantra here. And we like to ask every single one of our guests to speak on adversity in some form. So what I'd like to ask you is what is sort of, it could be in life, it can be in career, family, whatever it is. What is the biggest adversity that you've faced? And what I love to focus on is how you overcame it and what did you learn from it?
I can think of two instances. I could think about back in 2010, 2011, when my daughter had just been born, and a month after my daughter was born, my father passed away, and I had just been hired as a defensive coordinator. Now, my dad had done the chains at Manasquan since I was a junior in high school. Was on the chain gang from '95 until he passed away in 2011. And that was something where he had an accident at home, and I didn't find out till after the football game, and everybody knew in the stands, and it was kind of an eerie feeling, going through that, and kind of everything getting put on you, at a real young age, and then losing my grandfather that following spring, and I had a great relationship with him. He was a football player, and he's a World War II veteran, and a just an all-around great dude. Always would work outside, and my job every summer was to dig the 75-yard garden so they had some property in the backyard, and from 14 until I was about 24, 25 was digging that garden. But I think losing those two guys actually inspired me to our family to start a 501c3 foundation in their memory. And we actually did a charity run for 5 years while I was still living in New Jersey, and donated to two of my dad's favorite charities as a result, and did very well doing that. So that's kind of how we overcame that. The second one I would say is when we first moved down here in 2015. We had sold our house in New Jersey and did pretty well, but we weren't going to buy anything until we were sure we were staying here. So we were renting, and I wanted my wife to stay home and raise the kids. I didn't want her going to work and us paying daycare, somebody else raising our kids. So we had some tight couple years. I was bar backing, I was waiting tables, I was tutoring, doing everything I could to help provide for the family and stuff. And flash forward to last October, she gets hired full time, and now she's doing a phenomenal job. She's one of the best insurance agents down here in Naples, and I just hope that I can keep up with her work ethic. She is she is a spark plug. My wife, she is a dynamic worker. So I just try to match her effort, every day.
That's awesome, Coach. I'm so glad you highlighted those two stories, and what a tribute to your father and grandfather with those charities. That's incredible. And it seems like moving is each move is different. What have you learned from moving around so much, different jobs, different areas? What have you learned from those?
I think when you move around, and I mean, a couple of things. I think one, you meet great people. You start some new relationships, but then you also, on the same token, you also find out who's in your foxhole. You also find out who's there, to support you. And, there's a group of guys that I've stayed tight with. My best friend, actually, he worked in New York City for 17 years. He left when the pandemic. He's in the restaurant business. He was worked for one of the highest ranking restaurants in the world up in Columbus Circle. And they closed for the pandemic. So he left. His parents lived down here in Florida. He just got hired as the food and beverage director of the Four Seasons over on the East Coast. And then, I tell this to my high school classes all the time. I'm like, you guys all care about what's on your social media and all this other stuff. I said, I graduated with 350 people. I talked to 5. I said, I'm friends with people on Facebook and stuff. I talked to 5 people. I said, you guys in 3 years, because I have seniors, like, you won't care what went on in high school. I was like, just you're going to be so inundated with other stuff. And but I think from the moving perspective, I think you really see who your friends really are. And I also realized that I really, really enjoy not shoveling snow anymore.
You know what? I'll tell you, I living in Colorado, I envy you so much, Coach.
Dude, I don't miss waking up a half hour early to start my car or go to bed at night. And you wake up and there's snow in the driveway and you got to shovel before you pull your car out. It's funny because my sister, my family's still up there. My mom's still up there. My grandmother's going to turn 90 in April.
Wow.
And she's still freaking smart as a whip, man.
That's awesome.
But, it's funny because, my sister's still up there and everybody posts these videos on Facebook of, going the 10 minutes of happiness during the day. Nobody posts a video of you waking up and looking out the window and seeing 6 feet of snow in your driveway and you going, oh, I wish I was in Florida. You know what I mean? So I was finding it funny.
That's awesome. I mean, it's what's nice, at least being a football coach, is, you get year-round football outside. And yeah. I mean, that's one thing that we definitely somewhat struggle with out here in Colorado, but
sure.
That's well,
awesome. Me too. I mean, in a normal year, we're outside the day after the Super Bowl throwing.
That's awesome. As most teams should.
Because we can.
Yeah. No kidding. I mean, we're out here trying to, we have late winters. So we have snow coming in March, April, maybe even in May. And so it definitely puts a damper on spring football and stuff on that. So, I mean, it definitely changes the dynamic a little bit. That's for sure. Coach, you've mentioned last one for you here. And then you've mentioned quite a few names that have definitely been a part of your journey. Throughout this, I think you mentioned Coach Cabu, Coach Martucci, early on in the show. And I want you to highlight them, again, if you want to, and just kind of I know myself, and I'm in my late 20s. I wouldn't be anywhere near where I am without the people in my life, and that, whatever it's a big circle, small circle, whatever it is, I wouldn't be anywhere without them. And I know a lot of us, if not all of us, are that same way as we are, who we surround ourselves with. So who are some of the mentors that you look up to, and what do they teach you, and how have they impacted you when you first met them, and how do they still impact you?
I mean, I'll go the college route first. I mean, first and foremost, Coach Don Brown has been a tremendous mentor to me. Just seeing how he coaches. I hope at 64 I still have the juice that he has. He is a great guy. I just found out that he's recruiting our county, so I was super jacked about that. He'll be, when they're allowed to, he'll come in from Arizona now, and we'll be able to go grab a bite to eat and talk some football. And just a tremendous, husband, father, grandfather. I mean, just a great guy. I mean, I'd pick up the phone, call him, he answers. We talk football. I got to meet him once and got to talk to him for about like 5 minutes. But Nick Saban has a tremendous influence on me, and I think a lot of coaches will say that. But just the way he handles his team and organization and preparation and accountability, and how he can still relate to the kids at his age. And, I think that's a huge part. And again, I know it's Alabama and they're coming off a national title, but I mean, the buck stops with him. And if I can have a fraction of what he had as a head coach, sign me up. And then from a high school perspective, I mentioned, Coach Kaboo was the reason I wanted to get into coaching I wanted to be a head coach since I was 14 years old. And he's the reason why. Him and Coach Don Reed and Rich Reed, they were my position coaches. Jay Price, Pete Cahill, Mike Galos, Bob Generelli. I mean, I could go on and on about guys that have just there's a little piece of them every time I coach. I can hear Coach Kaboo had a real high pitched yell, so I can hear the old man in my head every now and then telling me to shut up, or you're not doing that right, or it's and we all, and guys that have played or coached for him, when we get on the phone or we get together, we all joke about the high pitched yell. And the good thing is with technology, like with YouTube, we can get on YouTube and we can there's clips of him from coaching back from when we were playing and coaching, so you can hear it. So it's pretty neat. But yeah, those guys have had a tremendous impact on me. And I got to mention one more person. It's my father-in-law. He really when my dad passed away, he really filled a void that I was lacking, and still continues to this day. He's taught me stuff. I mean, he's a retired, he owned an auto shop for 35 years. Now I'm going to tell you a little story about me. My dad didn't let me do anything with my hands. Didn't let me mow the lawn. I could shovel snow. That's the only thing my dad let me do around the house. That's why I liked going over my grandfather's house. My grandfather was a Seabee in the Navy, so all they did was build. So at least he let me work with some tools. So my father-in-law, I think, assumed when I came into the family and my wife and I got married that I knew how to do stuff. I didn't know anything. So we had some battles now, but he's been a tremendous impact on me, and I can't thank him enough.
That's awesome, Coach. I'm so glad you mentioned so many different names. For one, I tell my kids, I think it's good to point out to athletes. Kids want to focus on one guy, and I'm going to emulate that guy, and that's who I'm going to be. And I think that's just not possible. If I'm going to go out there and try to be Odell Beckham Jr., it's just not going to work. But if I can take a piece that I can use in my own life, and I think that's the same thing as you mentioned. So many coaches, it's not that you emulate one specific coach. It's you take a piece out of all of them. And I know I said it was the last one, but I wanted to follow up on your Nick Saban comment. There's so many coaches, and there's so many incredible coaches, including yourself, out here in this country, in this world. What is that one kind of thing that sets them apart? Is it the relational aspect of his? Is a relational ability with his players? Is it the adaptation with the times? I mean, what sets him apart through your interactions with him and really any other coach out there?
I think he does a tremendous job delegating authority. I think everybody that works for him understands their job and their expectations, and that's from the water boy to the player to the secretary to everybody knows their role and knows their job. So there's no question of what you're supposed to be doing and when you're supposed to be doing it. And I think when you see him mic'd up or you see him at practice and, hopefully we can get to go up there this year. I don't know, probably won't be able to, but I think that's one thing that, again, I think the adaptability too, I think he's in his age. I think he's kind of eased up a little bit, but he still has the juice. But I think the fact that he just does such a good job of telling people what their jobs are. And that's our big mantra is do your job, just do it. Well, and we're going to define what your job is. So when you know what it is, you better do it with a purpose. And I think that from him, I think that makes him one of the best, the best college football coach ever.
Well, Coach Gibbs, I mean, it was an honor to talk to someone of your caliber today on the podcast. I appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to join us. Good luck at East Lehigh County High School. I wish you all the best, and go tear it up. Are you guys playing a spring season? Or are you preparing for the fall?
Yeah, no, we start spring practice April 26th.
All right, so you're getting ready to go. That's awesome. Well,
I gotta hire a staff, man. So
you got your hands tied, that's for sure.
Oh yeah, no. So it's it'll be a good challenge, and looking forward. I get to go meet the kids on Thursday, and I start next Tuesday. It might be my first day at the high school.
That's fantastic. Well, Coach, good luck. Thank you so much. We'll be in touch. If you happen to find yourself in cold Colorado, please don't hesitate to hit me up, and we'll go out sometime.
I think this might be the closest that I'm going to get to Colorado, my friends.
Okay, then if I ever come to Florida, I know who to call.
If you ever come to the West Coast of Florida, you know where to find me.
Well, Coach Gibbs, I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
All right, guys. Thank you.